Good day, beautiful soul family, and welcome back to the discovery of the miracles beneath the surface. All the honor and all the glory and praise goes to our Heavenly Father in King Yeshua's name. Beautiful soul family. This message, really, it's a clarity. It's an understanding. It's a means of getting to have a deeper understanding about a tactic that was then used and is still trying to be used to this day. If we do not understand the things that have been used in the past, then when it happens again, we're going to think that it is new and then therefore think that there's no ways of getting around it. And so, as I was in the midst of prayer, the Most High Yah brought this clarity to me, and I think it's very important to share this. And it's breaking this system down. This is really why was and is in so many different ways. Why do they utilize the bucking system? Now, I have a picture here, and it says the bucking the system. Now, what is sown is what will be reaped. And when we see a system run by beasts, the beast system, and we see why they utilize certain animalistic things. You know, it's just so amazing. It's amazing. And all the honor and all the glory and all the praise goes to the Most High. So I'll share a couple of experiences. I was taking a taxi, and as I was on my way to work, I don't know how it got there, but the man started to talk about, and it was during nighttime, that was interesting, but he was talking about how he would, if he had the money, he would get wild horses. And he would get wild horses to break them in. And I knew where this was going. I was saddened at the point of, I was saddened in thinking that although he was a very much older man than I, his mind frame was still, in its own way, buckling. And the thing is beautiful soul family, this is a beast system. And in this inverted world, where those that are good are seen as bad, and those that are bad are seen as good. Those who are human are seen and treated as animals, and those who literally are the animals are being seen as human. Now, those who are the animals, and this is by the means of their actions and state of being in their mind. Because you may, if you're listening, you may say, well, how can a human being be an animal? Well, there are different traits. And there's more things going on than what we can imagine. I brought this out in a prior message. But anyways, you know, in the animal kingdom is killed or be killed. And so what's interesting to note is that those that treat others as animals are literally the animals working in a mind frame of kill or be killed. There is no such thing as coexistence. So they will buck instead of being bucked. They will enslave or to prevent from being enslaved. We see this account actually in the Holy Scriptures where it talks about how the Israelites were fighting the Philistines. And this is when Eli and his two sons were alive. Now, Eli's two sons, they were in leadership based on their father, but they were not directing the people in the right way. And so what ended up happening is when they were fighting against the Philistines, then the Israelites came out with the Ark of the Covenant. Now, the Ark of the Covenant was something that was well known by even the enemies, that when they saw the Ark of the Covenant, they were going to be afraid because they knew they were going to lose that battle. And so the Philistines, they were wondering what that crying and screaming was all about. And then they saw the Ark of the Covenant. And then the commander said to them, listen, gird yourself as men. If we do not win this battle, then they will enslave us. So in that mindset, there is no coexistence. There is kill or be killed, buck or be bucked.
You people, you're not a race. You are a virus. You destroy the world. Everything beautiful you poison. You drag us from our homes. You rape our daughters, murder our sons. You crack our spines and do all you can to break our will. You stab us. Then you put the knife in our hand and tell us it's our fault. And if you don't do it yourself, you stand by, close your eyes, and pretend there's nothing wrong. And then you pray to your God to silence our screams so that you can enjoy the happiness that we built for you with our blood. But it's not your fault. It's the only way you know how to be. And the only thing that will change anything is if another virus comes along and does to you what you do to us. And I hope that happens very soon.
Wow. This evening obviously hasn't gone as I'd hoped. And I think I'm having a full-on panic attack right now, so I'm gonna go to the bathroom and get myself together, and when I come back, I hope you don't see me as the devil.
Beautiful soul family. As I was looking at history, I was seeing how it's all about vengeance. It's when you really look at it, and if you blink, you missed it. But if you really look at it, and this is about the roots, this is about going beneath the surface, because, you know, it's one thing to go to another location and not have an understanding of what's actually taking place. Because you can go to another location and still carry those hurts. You can still carry so much baggage, and then end up seeing the same thing happen, or worse yet, see the same things happening and don't be triggered. As I mentioned in the beginning, if we don't understand where are we coming from, the things that happened in the past, which is why they try to hide those things to bring about certain things to come again, as if it didn't happen before. And for some reason, they think that all that they have done, I'm talking about the beast system, that it actually had some good. And that's not true. You see, beautiful soul family, Moses, okay? let's just say Moses. It takes a person not enslaved by the system to help people to come out of the system. And in order for that to take place, there has to be a reckoning. There has to be a means, a time frame in which we come to literally, truly embrace what has happened by the people who choose not to be held accountable, to understand what they're trying to do to hide it so they're not accountable, so that they can bring it back again. Like a 2.0. But here is where we say no. And it takes knowledge. Why certain things, bucking system, has even been put on the table. So in order to understand this, we first need to understand that the colonists took people who were not slaves. They saw some value, a lot of value, an abundance. And out of jealousy and envy is when they feel like they have a right. Envy is when they say, oh yeah, we enslaved them, but they learned some good, they had some good benefits out of being enslaved, out of being raped, out of being sold and having their families divided. Oh yes, there's some benefits. When a person says, or a group of people says that they benefited, then they're saying in a most decorative way, they're not sorry for what they did and are happy for what they did. But beautiful soul family, our Abaya stated this. He said that he chose a foolish nation.
These black people are like little children. So how do we keep these blacks in bondage so that their God never delivers them from this evil? Problem solved. We give them what they want. They don't know that it's sin because they don't study their history in the Bible. Give them just enough to make them feel free, and they will worship us. We will be their God. Look, they unalive each other over us anyways, because whose face is on that green paper? Ours! Let's give them things to keep them distracted, like sports. You know they love them some basketball. Let's put the bad foods in their grocery stores and fast food restaurants in their hoods. Gotta keep them asleep. Let's also give them preachers who preach for money and never tell the people the truth. This will keep them in disobedience with their God, and our prisons will stay full. We have to make sure they never know their identity. That is the key to their freedom.
When we understand that this is a foolish nation, how can we expect wisdom to come out of things, people, a system that is foolish? How can we expect for them to understand the rights of human beings when they're beasts? It's not possible. Now, as I brought out, in a slither, you blink and you miss it, okay? But this is so amazing because dealing with this subject matter, this tactic that has been used and still is used in so many different inferences, the bucking system. The bucking system is not utilized, it's not put upon many people, is put upon a certain type of people. Now they have the fear mongering for the general population, but for those who are emotionally intelligent, for those who are the children of the Most High Yah, for those who choose to live their life righteously, for those who take a stand on a firm foundation, for those who are headstrong, who know who they are and whose they are and are not apologizing for it, who knows for right and wrong. You see, that is what the bucking system is for. The bucking system is for the leaders, not for the general population. And why is that? It's because those type of people, leaders, those who have actually gone through things before the general population. We're talking about sickness, we're talking about so many different things. We're talking about blockages, shadow band, I mean, so many different things. And they've come to find that even if you don't have food, and you don't have water, you don't have money, you don't have a job, you don't have friends, and you don't have family, you still have life. And you see, the fear-mongering on the general population says if you act out of line, if you don't bend the knee as you're hearing the sound of the music, like, you know, of the holidays, if you don't struggle to spend your very last dime setting up a tree or hallelujah wing, you know, then you are not compromising. The bucking system is set upon certain people whose purpose is to lead. Not only that, for those who are here to shine the light on the lies. You see, putting the light on the lies from a different angle. You see, they don't mind that the lies are seen so long as it's seen as truth. But when you turn the light in another angle, the lies that they put on the forefront can be seen as a lie and not the truth. So things that are good, that are seen as bad, we can say, no, that's not bad, it's actually good. And the things that are bad, that are seen as good, we can turn a light on it and say, no, let's actually observe this and see that this indoctrination is actually a lie. Beautiful soul family. The bucking system is put in place upon such people to cause people to acquiesce, to cause people to be afraid and to be led by fear. You see? It's like they take the strongest man and woman and they start to chip away, so-called chipping away, to take them from something big and to bring them, to make them feel small, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, so that it can fit into their equation, which the ending outcome is their success. It's a conditioning. And then based on what takes place on someone that is strong mentally, spiritually, emotionally, physically, then those who haven't even come to that point will say, my goodness, if this is happening to them, there's no way I want that to happen to me and my family. The bucking system. The bucking system is taking a bull and making it an ox, and then forcing that ox to do all types of labor. Castrating in so many different ways. Getting a person to not believe in themselves. Getting a person to not have faith. Faith is the substance of things hoped for and evidence of things not yet seen. But it's not so much about tearing down a leader that is chosen by the Most High Yah, but it's about the ending results. It's about what then happens. It's about the cause and effect. It's about the domino effect. And interesting enough to note that when they bring forth a bucking system and they tear away friends and family and block financial opportunities and jobs and this and that, totally strip and make nude, vulnerable, that is supposed to be a conditioning that brings down a person so much that they won't even look at themselves in the mirror. So much as they are in fear of ever thinking such a thing, to stand up again and to do what's right. There are certain people, however, that even though the bucking system has been put upon them and they've been stripped financially, friends, family, which weren't even, practically everything that the norm of a person could need or want, or both. Somehow there are certain people that say, wait a second, I have all these things taken away. I've even had my life at the grips of despair. But yeah, I'm still alive. I am still alive. And so when I think about it, and glory be to the Most High Yah, but when I think about the bucking system that is utilized to bring forth a domino effect, not to encourage people, but to discourage people, to snatch away their hope, that when the truth is there, they don't even want to look at it. They don't even want to embrace it. And matter of fact, they won't even fight it. This is what we see in the movie They Live, where the guy was trying to show him the sunglasses so he can really open up his eyes. He was trying to fight him. Because having the truth is not that it's not out there, but the truth that is out there, they don't want to see it because it will disrupt. Now, for the most part, the reason why the general population gets swayed by the fear is because they're looking at the person or people that have been balked and has disintegrated. But there is a small group where people have been balked, but yeah. And I'm seeing more and more of those people arise. And it's amazing. Because the very people that has had all of this happen to them to keep their mouths shut, they're still going strong. You see, all they've done is prove to them that they don't need money or food or drinks. They don't need so-called friends and family who can later on be bucked or manipulated, or swindled, or bought. I think I said that twice, didn't I? But anyways, beautiful soul family. Fear is false evidence appearing real. See, those who have been bucked and yet have been knocked down to a position where they're on their knees. It's about what they do next, about what they continue to do. We see this in the account of Daniel. We see this in the account of Isaiah. We see this in so many different accounts in the Old Testament and in the New Testament. That even though there are certain systems that are set up to come against certain people by the method of the bucking system, so long as they stay in tune with the Most High Yah, and everything gets taken away from them. Cars is taken away, a house to call a home is taken away, food and drink is taken away, opportunities of work is taken away, that does a domino effect with their finances. All these things. But yet these are the people that can show that even though they were in subjection to such a system to hold them down, they realized they didn't need those things to begin with. And what's more important is their life. And the life is not in the hand of the colonists or the beast system. It's in the hands of the Most High Yah. King Yahusha is at the door knocking. Is all the noise of the world preventing you from hearing the knock? We had been embracing lies and led to hell. The billionaires, the trillionaires, is not by the means of the dollar signs. Really, it's about the amount of people that they have influenced and affected in so many ways. You ever wonder why none of them will lead you into the arms of Yahuwah? It's because the numbers that stack up are about the lives that they have affected for the worse. In this bucking system, there is an indoctrination. And we see two doctrines stated in the Holy Scriptures. It is the Balaam doctrine, and it is the Nicolaitan doctrine. These two doctrines are based off of seeing the weakness. It's all about observing the Israelites, the true ones, and seeing how they can distort their relationship with the Most High Yah.
These black people are like little children. So how do we keep these blacks in bondage so that their God never delivers them from this evil? Problem solved. We give them what they want. They don't know that it's sin because they don't study their history in the Bible. Give them just enough to make them feel free, and they will worship us. We will be their God. Look, they unalive each other over us anyways, because whose face is on that green paper? Ours! Let's give them things to keep them distracted, like sports. You know they love them some basketball. Let's put the bad foods in their grocery stores and fast food restaurants in their hoods. Gotta keep them asleep. Let's also give them preachers who preach for money and never tell the people the truth. This will keep them in disobedience with their God, and our prisons will stay full. We have to make sure they never know their identity. That is the key to their freedom.
To separate what makes them strong as a people. To divide them so that they scatter. So that they're no longer anymore. Not even a distant memory. Also to add, as I was trying to mention, is that with the Balaam doctrine and the Nicolaitan doctrine, these are two doctrines that didn't come at the same time, but they were reiterating idolatry, sexual immorality, greed. Now, when you are looking at these different things and why they reiterate so many different things, is because they got the results. The Balaam doctrine and the Nicolaitan doctrine was about conditioning the people to separate them from Yahuwah, which in terms keeps them system afloat. Now, isn't that system a round table? And they're talking about how they must come against certain people so that they can have control. When a person needs to do all of that, they have no control. But what they do is they have a lengthy experience of destruction. They don't necessarily have a lengthy experience of building for the better. What you sow is what you reap. You sow destruction, you will reap destruction. You don't plant an apple tree and get oranges. You don't tell lies and expect a wonderful outcome. And so this is why it's so important to understand that they utilize a bucking system to deter people from believing in themselves, to deter people from understanding the truth and having enough gumption to say no. So they utilize fear. Fear is false evidence appearing real. They will utilize the matrix, right? The matrix to set up certain fear tactics across the board. Well, if you want to have a happy life, you do these holy days, which are rituals. You want things in your life, then you have to bend a knee. You got to play to the music. But especially in Daniel, we see how the Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah and Daniel did not fall for such things. Many people came for them. Gang stalking. We see this today. There's nothing that they do that is different. But we see that the ending that takes place, the outcome. All those that came against the children of the Most High, Yah, died. It's not a death, meaning an ending to a state of mind. It is to where they are no longer in existence. And when we look at the parable of the rich man and Lazarus, the rich man was telling Abraham, please send Lazarus back, because he was trying to keep alive his legacy. After a while, there's no more legacy to carry forth. And it may seem long and drawn out, but it actually is very thorough. So, in the Holy Scriptures, it speaks about these doctrines. Now, the Balaam doctrine refers to corrupt teaching. And it says a corrupt teaching highlighted in the Bible, in Revelations. But this is about luring people away from Yahuwah, as I mentioned before. It says, lures Yahuwah's people into sin for personal gain. Now, I've talked about this when the Israelites they were brought out of Egypt. And the Midianites, the Midian king Balak, he had sorcerers, but he was seeking for a major sorcerer by the name of Balaam. And he was needing Balaam to curse the Egyptians. Now let's get a little deeper, shall we? Balaam was the sorcerer that the Egyptian Pharaoh was taking a lot of his counsel from. Balaam was the one that told the Pharaoh to do something that the Israelites wouldn't think that you would do. Go after their children. Balaam knew a lot about the Israelites from the very beginning. And they utilized such a system to break them down. Now, what's so interesting is that a lot of people, especially today, would like to get on the bandwagon and say, oh yeah, slavery was good for those who were enslaved. Oh yeah, that was a system that was created and it was actually good. But it was not good. And anyone who is caught up even in the thought of it, you will be destroyed as being an accomplice, a supporter. So the King Balak, he was needing to hire on the services of Balaam so that he could curse the people, because they just left from enslavement from the Egyptians. And so they wanted to destroy them so that way they wouldn't even have to deal with them, because they knew what was coming. And in so many vantage points that King Balak brought Balaam to, our Abba Yah told him, listen, you can't curse whom I have blessed. And this is what he told Balak. But still Balak was not trying to hear that. So he brought him to another vantage point. Here's another vantage point. Can you just curse him from this point? And after a while, he got upset because he's like, you're blessing them. And Balaam said, I can't curse who Yahuwah has blessed. But he didn't stop there. He said, but there's a loophole to this. You can lure them. You can tempt them and bring them out of safety. And then you can attack them. So here when it says Yahuwah's people into sin for personal gain, especially advocating for idolatry. In order to do that, see, Balaam, he understood the Israelites, who they served, what they could do and what they couldn't do. See, you have to know the truth in order to tell a lie. Advocating for idolatry, eating foods sacrificed to idols, and sexual immorality, essentially blending pagan practices with faith for worldly benefits, a warning against spiritual compromise and greed that remains relevant today. Sexual immorality, temptation through idolatry, greed, and compromise. And there are those who have been bucked, but not broken. And they say, you know what, I don't celebrate these holidays. And I refuse to forsake my Abaya to have things. I will not bend a knee. I mean, this is not just something that was done in the Holy Scriptures. There are people today, including myself and my family, who have gone through much. You see, beautiful soul family, they set up a system to where when you hear the truth, it's too much. It's too real. Are there people who have gone through hell of a situations and still choosing Abaya? Are there people who are still taking a stand for righteousness without the car, without the house to make a home, without food, without drinks, without a job, without this, without that? There are certain reasons why Yahuwah allowed for certain things to take place to prove that even though you don't have those things, you still have life. But the system wants to make it seem that if you don't have those things, you might as well die. You might as well buckle. You might as well give in. You might as well acquiesce. They will set up so many things. I mean, we've gone through a lot and still are. And still are. And there are people who say, you know what? We're not going to fold. We're not going to stop. It is not easy. But it's not nearly enough to stop doing what is right. So what ended up happening is quite beautiful. Because out of all the abuse and the gang stalking and on a spiritual, emotional, mental, and physical, what ends up happening is it was so that the strong people would not stand. But they didn't think that there would be people that will still stand. Enough to see that, okay, so I don't have these things, but what I do have is life. And I do have the truth. I do know who I am. I know who my Abaya is and who my King and Savior is. And there is a better way. You see, all of this was to prevent a shift to go in the opposite direction. You see, when we go to the account of Abraham and Lot, they went their separate ways. Lot went to an area that he saw from afar as being developed. But as he got close up, he realized that it was just a system of cold-hearted heathens. And then when Abraham went into another area that did not look developed, he realized there was actually much more out there that was complementary to him than anything else. You see, the booking system was not, the people who utilized the booking system could not fathom that there would actually be people who would still stand, who would still have enough soundness of mind. You know, our Abaya, he doesn't give us a spirit of fear. He gives us the spirit of power, love, and a sound mind. You know, usually when people have so many things stripped away from them, they tend to lose their mind. That even though they have life, they're so caught up in the things that can be taken away that when it is taken away, they feel like they have no life. And that's why this system has been indoctrinated in such a way. You do not need to put your energy into trying to understand a system that its framework is about having people beneath their feet, worshiping idols and so many different things that are set up to come against Yahuwah. So let's look at also the Nicolaitan doctrine. So the Nicolaitan doctrine is a heretical teaching condemned in the book of Revelation, advocating the Christian liberty allowed for sexual morality, idolatry, eating food sacrificed to idols. You see, what we're seeing is two doctrines. Now look, let me finish. And compromise with pagan cultures, essentially twisting grace into a license for sin and blurring the lines between sacred and profane. You see what's so interesting? Because there is a scripture that says Yahuwah has set up a wall to separate the sacred from the profane. But what they are deciding to do, when you look at the system and you really take a look and observe, you see how they are, and I like how they put it here, blurring the lines between sacred and profane. That means taking away that wall. As we look in Nehemiah, as we look at the account of Nehemiah, we see how it was about building the wall. But before they built the wall, they had to first clean up the temple. What's the point in building a wall when there's discord taking place within the temple, correct? And so we see that happening physically, but in a spiritual sense, spiritually actually, because it's a spiritual battle, right? So spiritually, we need to understand that in our temples, is it clean? If the temple isn't clean, then we're not going to worry about building the wall. Nehemiah went where nobody was looking, where they weren't aware. It's like the awareness when the temple is not clean and put back into the order, not able to see what's taking place. So the temple needed to be cleaned. The wall needed to be built to separate the sacred from the profane. And even then, when they were having their Sabbath, they were lined up. People that were selling their idol products, right? They were set up outside the gate. And Nehemiah said, when this Sabbath is over, if you are still there, I will lay hands on you. You know what's so interesting is because I wrote this on the 3rd, by the grace of the Most High, yeah. But when we look at Psalms 23, the latter part of Psalms 23, and I was thinking about maybe I should do this in another message, but you know what? No, these time frames, this needs to come out. Now it says in the latter part of Psalms 23, He prepared a table before me in the presence of my enemy. The enemy at the table is handlers, not friends, so-called family, principalities and powers, the very thing that is brought out in Ephesians chapter 6, that we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but we are wrestling with principalities and powers and spiritual wickedness on high. Nehemiah at the gates, those people that are there to sell their trinkets, And I could break down what those trinkets are. Those trinkets are temptations to bring them further from Yahuwah. And this is why we're bringing this out with the doctrine of Balaam and Nicolaitan. Now, Nehemiah at the gate of Sabbath, they cleared out the temple and reconstructed the wall. The gate was working just in time for Sabbath. The people that were on the outside were positioning like black birds to eat up a good thing. Nehemiah said, if you are still there, I will lay my hands on you. The products, advertisements, handlers, so-called family, so-called mates, practically anything waiting to destroy your growth. You know, in the parable, it talks about how the seed is on the path, is on the thorns, is on the rocky place, you know. And there are certain things that eat up the seed before it gets planted in. It talks about how birds come to eat of that. So when you're doing something good, or you hear a good message and you don't really understand it, but it's still there on the surface and it's waiting to just come down to where it can be fully ingested and go through its germination. Keeps their system afloat. And it's just so interesting because in the account, in the book of Daniel, we see how when Yahuwah had brought him a vision, he didn't have much clarity, so he prayed. And I think I wrote this on the 1st of January. I may not be bringing out messages as much as I would like to, but I do write them down. I wrote A plus B equals C equals indoctrinate B to get results, in order to get results. I think I'm going to do this in another message, but just to explain a little bit about it. I mentioned it in prior messages, but it's a fight for knowledge and understanding. When you don't understand, when you don't even have anyone to look up to, this is why we see that they whitewashed our King and Savior and gave him a different name. I think the reason why people don't really want to take their mind to that, even though there's so much proof out there, because they don't want to see how deliberate and how dogmatic the system truly is. Some people, you know, I mean, who really wants to look at something that is so dreadful with both eyes wide open? It's terrifying, especially if they're still relying on a pacifier. You know, this system will want you to continue to rely upon pacifiers and safety blankets, because those are the very things that keeps you not growing and not being self-reliant, not going according to the purpose of Yahuwah. For when you are growing, you are adult, you're not doing childish things. You put that to the side. When we look at the account of Daniel, and it shows that there was a battle, it talks about the principality of Persia trying to prevent Archangel Gabriel from fulfilling the command of Yahuwah, because nothing returns back void, all right? And also about trying to prevent Daniel from having the truth. You see, the system wants a person or people to be in confusion. And anything and anyone that is there to help lift up the head instead of keeping their head down low, they will fight. They would do anything that it takes. They would surround this people around certain people. They will hinder. They will utilize so many tactics to make even a strong-minded person who knows without a doubt that they're doing the right thing by speaking the truth. They will buck them as much as they possibly can to make them even question themselves and their purpose. And this is what we're seeing, just a slice, an example of what we see in the account of Daniel that is going on to this very day. That they will fight the truth, fight understanding, fight knowledge and wisdom. So that when people are caught up by such a system, they will always bend to it and not fight it. It gets eaten up. It gets destroyed. And this is what they want. But first, they have to try to come at those who are seen as leaders. They set up such a system to where it automatically works on its own. A system that is wicked and cruel. But in the end, we know that the snake eats its own tail. You see, Satan is not about producing a thriving society. He already knows that he's judge. He's all about making dust. And the heavy delusion is saying that even after all this hard work of bucking, of putting people in fear and all this, that, and the other, that their system is actually going to make it. And that's a lie from the pits of hell. Because Yahuwah is the Alpha and the Omega. He's the first and he's the last. He's the one with the first say and the final say. Until the next message, have a beautiful and wonderful day. And may Yahuwah continue to open up your eyes in these interesting times.